Hello everyone, Tactical Itch here. Got a replay from yours truly this time, playing as the Dowie here. Just wanted to test out the post 5.3 Dwarfs changes to their units, including the bolt throwers, the flame cannons, and the gyros. Now for the army build here, we have a front line of longbeards with great weapons, expecting to trade blows against enemy white lines of trace. Behind them, a bunch of miners with blasting charges, and on the flanks, some cheaper but still armor-piercing dwarf warriors with great weapons. Behind all these infantry are 3 artillery units, 2 bolt throwers with their 8 artillery models, and 1 flame cannon with their extra 40 range increase after the patch. Guarding the artillery are 2 units of slayers, and in the skies 2 regular gyrocopter units. Leading the army, Rune Lord coming in with Rune of Rathlin Ruin and Rune of Slowness. He is accompanied by a Dragon Slayer bodyguard with slightly less melee stats in the new patch and slightly more unit cost. As for the other side, Jayema playing as the High Elves, a front line of rangers backed up by a second line of white lines of trace and some archers, providing some pretty decent range fire, but they will be prime target for my flame cannons to burn down. War Lions of Trace here, providing some anti-infantry armor-piercing mobility, great for disrupting my backline, my artillery, and my missile infantry, if I have any missile infantry, that is. Speaking of Lions, there's 1 unit of Lion Chariots of Trace at the back there. This game was played in early access before the patch actually came out, so Jayema and I were trying to test out some 5.3 changes, including the Chariot mass increase. On the far corners of the battlefield, there is 1 unit of Illyrian Reavers ready to ambush my artillery line. For the single entities here, 1 Arcane Phoenix, and also a Mage of Life to heal all these High Elf units, leading the army Tyrion on foot. Being a solid melee fighter with multiple abilities and items to boost his stats, there Stand Your Ground, Feign and Repulse, and Heart of Avalon for that burst heal in case of emergency. That's it for army builds, and now let's get the battle started. Battle begins, and the Dowie artillery are inching forwards, trying to get into range and start raining fire, literally for the flame cannons, raining fire onto those High Elf infantry. Now, rangers with their loose formation will be less susceptible to those fiery explosions, but the archers at the back, densely packed among each other, they will be taking more explosion damage. Though the range of the flame cannon still needs a little bit more to reach these archers, so I'll be just shooting at the rangers, though they are indeed, after a few volleys, will be taking some noticeable losses as well. On the far side, Reavers are moving into position, trying to get a rear charge onto my artillery, and the archers should be in range of my flame cannons now, and I'll be promptly switching targets and start shooting the archers instead. Arcane Phoenix and the War Lions are moving towards the flank, ready to hit up my backline as well, while the rest of the High Elf formations standing still, raining down arrow fire onto my miners and perhaps some of my longbeards. No, just mostly miners, but they are being counter-shot by the flame cannons, taking substantial casualties. The Arcane Phoenix is closing in on my formation, but that also means it's not guarding its own units, and the gyrocopters are able to fly over and perhaps drop some bombs onto the archers. Especially when archers are standing so close to each other, 1 wave of bomb drop is able to devastate both units, doing substantial damage. While over here, War Lions charging into the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons and then switching over to the miners. Arcane Phoenix also jumping on top of the miners with blasting charges, disrupting my miners, preventing them from dropping those blasting charges onto those High Elf units. Rangers didn't take a whole lot of explosive damage due to their loose formation and physical resistance, so they will be getting into melee range with no particular issue. These guys not even touched at all by the explosives. However, the archer line has been dispatched by a combination of flame cannon, shattering one of them and the other one also being dealt with by the bombs. Over here, a little bit of a Rune of Rathlin Ruin, nuking some rangers, just trying to thin out the High Elf infantry support on the flank there. War Lions disrupting my miners, preventing them from throwing explosives, and then rangers following up. Jayema doing a pretty good job in shutting down my miners with blasting charges, really. Arcane Phoenix dropping that Amber Storm, nuking my Longbeards with great weapons there, thinning out my own elite infantry, while the rest of the Longbeards are trying desperately to hold back the tide of White Lions and the Lion Chariot slamming into their backs. Unfortunately, they just can't really hold on at this point as the Lion Chariots push through their ranks, now going after the second line of my infantry. The Reavers were trying to harass my bolt throwers, knock them out of commission for a bit, but then they can just quickly go back onto the artillery models and start firing again, while the Arcane Phoenix trying to shut down my flame cannons there. Slayer is still holding back at the bolt throwers here, who is trying to shoot at Tyrion and chip away his health. So doing some pretty minor damage so far, as my infantry pretty much is on their last legs. War Lions charging into the miners and the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons once again, and then the Lion Chariots plowing through. Let's see how much the Lion Chariots have done in terms of damage value. 400 damage, not too bad, but also not that amazing either. We'll see what happens later in the battle. Now, 11 Reavers charging into the back of these bolt throwers here there. But unfortunately, because of so many models, so many artillery models on the bolt throwers, a lot of these Reavers are actually stuck on the artillery models instead of hitting my artillery crew. So they're not actually effectively bringing down the bolt throwers, just kind of disrupting them, but then because they're stuck on the artillery models and slowed down by the Rune of Slowness, the Slayers are able to catch up and now starting to drag down these High Elf mobility. Arcane Phoenix as well, trying to shut down my bolt thrower, but there's only one unit model of Arcane Phoenix, but I have 8 models of bolt throwers. So every attack of the Arcane Phoenix can only disrupt like 1 or 2 models of the artillery. The rest are still functioning and firing away, poking at Tyrion or whatever they can find as target. Flame Cannon's doing some really good work against the White Lions of Trace, basically nuking the unit as well, and they have already earned back almost their worth, 1,000, almost 100 gold worth of damage value and over 150 kills, most importantly thinning out a lot of that High Elf infantry support. Slayers killing off a bunch of War Lions who unfortunately charge into these anti-large infantry, and War Lions are being dispatched. A nice Ember Storm once again from Jaema here, nuking the HP of my remaining infantry. Lion Chariots of Trace now trying to shut down the Flame Cannons, but that's not exactly a big deal for me since the Flame Cannons have used up almost all their ammo. The Gyrocopters are still firing just freely at the back there, since the Arcane Phoenix is too busy shutting down my artillery instead of dealing with my aerial power. Now, we didn't put a lot of focus on the Lion Chariots, but Jaema did a great job keeping them mobile, constantly recharging my more expensive Longbeards, and also healing them up with Earthblood, so they are now at over 100 kills and earning almost 900 gold worth of damage value. Arcane Phoenix still trying to shut down the almost out of ammo Flame Cannon, and over here spells dropping onto the Rangers left, right, and center, and Earthblood trying to heal them back up, and then a Rune of Wrath and Ruin nuking these blobbed up troops. Tyrion once again trying to shut down my artillery, but once again, a single entity versus 8 models of artillery, just not disrupting enough of these artillery models. So the both throwers have just been staying alive for the longest of time, despite being also dragged into melee for pretty much most of the combat. Now, in the sky, Arcane Phoenix going after the Gyrocopters, but the extra unit models of the Gyrocopters means that they are not taking that much damage. Only a few unit models are in contact with the Arcane Phoenix, the rest are just hanging back and delaying the Arcane Phoenix. On the ground, Slayers are ganging up on Tyrion, regular Slayers taking hits for their characters, while the Dragon Slayers doing the armor-piercing damage. Tyrion is taking damage for sure, but he is also dishing out a lot of pain in return. The Dragon Slayer is getting low in health, and if not for the regular Slayers acting as his meat shield, he'll probably be dead by now. And don't forget, Tyrion might be getting low in health, but he also have access to self-heal, the Heart of Avalon, which will probably undo a lot of work my Slayers have done to him. Plus, we are the Dwarfs, we don't really have any terror effects to force Tyrion into an early rout. Lion's Chariots of Trace continues to psycho charge around the battlefield, running down my scattered units. Tyrion continues to get chipped away in this blob fight there. His HP is almost at the threshold for a Heart of Avalon heal. Now let's get back to Tyrion, still being targeted by so many unbreakable units. The heal will come in and save him from routing at any second, and there you go, Tyrion is healthy again. On the sky, the Gyrocopters have been terrified away by the Arcane Phoenix, while the Gyrocopters, the other one, are now finishing off the Lion Chariots. Now, Tyrion got his Heart of Avalon healing, and is fighting in pretty much full strength, doing some good damage to Rune Lord, but the Slayers are unbreakable and just holding down Tyrion, while the Dragon Slayer will try to do some psycho charging, put in a few more hits onto the High Elf Lord. Rangers are now regrouping, trying to recharge the Slayers, but the Slayers, still being relatively healthy, will be holding on for a bit longer. And Earthblood, they're sustaining the HP of the Rangers, trying to keep them in the fight a little longer. War Lions charging into the backs of the Slayers, but then quickly beaten up by the anti-large infantry. Even the Flame Cannon artillery crew are getting into melee combat, trying to give myself a little bit more meat shields, a little bit more HP and bodies in the fight to shield my characters from Tyrion's melee attack. Another hit from the Dragon Slayer, doing some good damage to Tyrion. Seems like the melee stats nerf to the Dragon Slayers isn't affecting him too much here, as he is still punching above his weight class. And the Dragon Slayer is still putting in some solid work against Tyrion, getting 1,400 gold worth of damage value already. The bolt thrower on the other side, they have been harassed by a bunch of single entities, by the Arcane Phoenix, by Lion Chariots, by War Lions, but they are still online and now poking at the Arcane Phoenix. And yeah, looks like unit models and artillery crew numbers, even after the reduction from the patch notes, There's still enough to make the bolt throwers a rather annoying artillery crew to deal with, really hard to dislodge them. Ember Storm onto my infantry blob, nuking the rest of my Longbeards and the artillery crew of the Flame Cannons. The Flame Cannon crew is pretty much expended all their ammo, so I don't really care about they're alive or not, but I definitely can use the help of some extra bodies here. So it is still quite sad to see them go down in an Ember Storm. Now it is just the Slayers, a very tattered unit of 8 unit models, plus a few artillery crew of the bolt throwers coming in, distracting Tyrion. And even now the gyrocopters are in the fight, diving on the Tyrion, giving myself even more bodies in this melee combat here. Just trying to shield the Dragon Slayer from Tyrion's counter punch, just to keep him alive a little longer, put in more hurt onto Tyrion. The Rune Lord is also fighting valiantly. Arcane Phoenix is in the fight as well. Now the Mage of Life, it is her turn to try and disrupt the bolt throwers, but once again, single entity, small unit model, not coming in contact with much of the bolt thrower unit, so most of the bolt throwers are just ignoring the Mage of Life, continues to fire. Now here comes a Rune of Wrath and Ruin, blasting these tattered rangers, and then a charge from the gyrocopters should be able to rout them off. The Dragon Slayer has been slain instead, leaving only regular Slayers and the Rune Lord duking out against Tyrion. Tyrion fighting valiantly, getting some solid damage value over the course of the battle, but I am still putting in some decent fight with the Slayers, dragging his HP down. Rune Lord also putting in some hits. Even the gyrocopters, who are almost out of ammo, are in the mix as well. Arcane Phoenix is receiving some Earthblood heal from the Life Mage, who has decided to give up on shutting down the bolt throwers and will be moving away as the Slayers, who have regrouped. They're busy chasing off some router units on the other side, but now they're returning to protect the artillery. From the Life Mage and drag her down. So the Life Mage, knowing that she can't take down all these Slayers, will be backing the hell out of there. Now trying to regroup with Tyrion and Arcane Phoenix, but Tyrion getting super low in HP, still having 500 HP roughly, using his abilities to his maximum benefit, just trying to stay alive and put in more hits. And he is actually bringing down my Rune Lord, getting some really good hits in. Another Earthblood healing the Arcane Phoenix, and this might actually terrify the Rune Lord away. Nope, looks like there's no terror, just a normal route for my Rune Lord. If the High Elves can keep the pressure onto my Rune Lord, then this might be over for my Dowie here. Tyrion and the Life Mage now trying to go after the Rune Lord, but here is a regrouped unit of tattered miners. Arcane Phoenix dispatched the gyrocopters in the skies, trying once again to go back and deal with the bolt throwers, but this might be a mistake because the miners are coming in, trying to save their Leash Lord. They're very depleted, but charging into combat should give them some extra leadership and pin down Tyrion for a second or two, buying time for the Rune Lord to run away. So they are staying in the fight and actually put in a few hits onto Tyrion, bringing him down to less than 250 HP. Tyrion's leadership is wavering. This is getting a little bit too close for comfort here for both sides, and Tyrion is squeezing out of that blob, trying to go after Rune Lord, but the Slayers are closely following him and put in a few more hits onto Tyrion. He is now down to less than 100 HP, and that is the last straw needed to break the back of the High Elf Foot Lord. Rune Lord, as a result, was able to come back. The Life Mage is stuck in a bunch of Slayers, some very tattered ones, only 4 models left, and the gyrocopters are freed up, now trying to hunt down Tyrion or what's left of him. While the Rune Lord, using his last breath, overcasting a Rune of Slowness, dropping the Arcane Phoenix speed down to 36. The Arcane Phoenix trying to go for an attack charge against the Rune Lord, but because of the slow, he can't really reach his target, and instead putting himself into the attack range of all these Slayers, who will be following the Arcane Phoenix, chipping away his HP. And to make things worse, because the Arcane Phoenix is slowed down, that makes it really hard for the Arcane Phoenix to dodge the shots from my bolt throwers there. Another few anti-large shots comes in, and the Arcane Phoenix actually dies, not getting that fiery rebirth, sealing the game with a Dwarf victory. GG to my opponent Jayama, and now let's get to the verdict of these Dwarf units post-nerf. Bolt throwers are still surprisingly survivable due to their extra unit models and HP, making them really hard to shut down, especially when you only have single entities that can only disrupt 1 or 2 artillery models at once. So they were able to survive till the late game, hanging on despite the War Lion Chariots, and 11 Reavers trying to disrupt them. Even the single entities tried their best to shut them down, but they just kept hanging on, getting their money's worth by shooting well into late game. They have less HP, artillery crew, and less reload speed, reducing their survivability and DPS, but I feel like it is still not quite enough to make them balanced. the Dragon Slayers still punch way above their own price class, costing 650 with no abilities and items. The solid melee stats and armor piercing value gives him a very nice trade against Tyrion, who is a much more expensive character, costing at least double as a regular naked Dragon Slayer. So the Dragon Slayer is definitely earning back its worth and a lot more. The gyrocopters, their extra unit models, makes them still rather annoying to shut down with only single entities, and were able to remain in the skies, keep shooting away at the enemy expensive targets like the Lion Chariot, and earn back their value, dropping bombs and whatnot. Flame cannons, due to the range buff, were able to very effectively dispatch enemy archers and the blobbed up infantry of the High Elves there, burning down the valuable High Elf troops, while the rest of the Dwarf army here, the infantry didn't do too much, just mostly delaying the enemy advance, buying more time for the missiles to do their work here, and also Dragon Slayers to kill Tyrion. Regular Slayers did a lot of damage, cutting through enemy infantry, cavalry, monsters, and whatnot. Basically, they were hard carrying the game, providing that valuable mid-shield against Tyrion there, so that the Dragon Slayers can have an easier time to cut down the High Elf Lord. As for the High Elf army, Tyrion tried his best to carry the game, but unfortunately, trading against the Dragon Slayer is just not cost effective for this expensive character, while the Arcane Phoenix did a lot of good damage with the Ember Storm and just pressured my missile assets for quite a while. Lion Chariot's also doing some pretty good disruption, running through my front line, killing a ton of my expensive armored infantry, but unfortunately the rest of the army didn't quite carry their own weight here, especially the archers getting incinerated by the flame cannons. War Lions also didn't get too much value, and that's it for today's battle. Jaima definitely did a great job with the Lion Chariots, but unfortunately seems like the Dawei is still a little bit strong in this current meta even after all the nerfs. So let's see what kind of changes will come to the Dwarf roster in the next few patches. Anyways, that's it for today's battle. I hope you enjoyed this multiplayer action, and if you want to see more Total Warhammer content, be sure to hit like on the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. TacticalItch, signing out.